Welcome to Super Woo Radio, where we are awakening into being free and sovereign. It's a place where minds hurt and hearts sing as we break through the barriers that have been holding us back. Be prepared to have belief systems confronted as we take the journey of the truth seeker for answers to life's biggest questions. Remember, truth is stranger than fiction, so come along for an awareness-expanding experience with George and his amazing guest. Here on Super Woo Radio.
Hello and welcome, magnificent Earth humans and all you other wonderful beings throughout the universe, listening to our multi-dimensional broadcast here on Super Woo Radio, episode number 29. Today we have an episode with a difference, where I'm the one who is being asked the questions as a result of numerous conversations with my friend Patricia Farrington. Patricia seems to just know how to ask the questions as they are expressed from a place of experience, discovery and personal transformation, instead of the more common practice of intellectual deduction. This conversation between two people who know that their journey through this universe is reaching completion is not just another exercise in feeding the mind, but rather a dialogue that speaks straight to and from the soul. Something very special happens. An insight of monumental proportions surfaces during this exchange. So please sit back, get snug and comfy, and enjoy this intriguing and revelatory dialogue. Well, here we are, Patricia, having a wonderful, heartfelt conversation to very old and ancient friends. It's nice to be conversing with you once again.
Thank you, George. It's so nice to be with you, and I feel the same way. I feel deeply connected to you that goes beyond this lifetime, and I feel that that's why I resonate so much with the way that you express yourself, who you are, and your life journey, the experiences that you share. So I thank you.
Well, thank you, Patricia, because the feeling is quite mutual.
Well, you're welcome.
So I know you have a series of questions that you would like to ask. It's yes, it's a conversation, but it's also the opportunity for you and I to bring clarity to certain issues that not only you have an interest in, but other people too have an interest in that you've been in contact with. And you've also, I suppose, just noticed that others are not understanding certain issues. And so this is just a wonderful opportunity to bring a greater understanding, because I too, since expressing these certain issues in the past, we're all a work in progress, and I too am growing every moment of every day, as is everybody else in your good self. So I feel it's a wonderful opportunity for us to do that.
Well, I so agree. I think when we talked recently, I was saying, it's interesting because as we experience this journey, the life of a truth seeker is a challenge. The life of a truth seeker can make you look unstable, hypocritical, like there's something not quite right with you because you stand in one truth because that's your awareness at the time. And as you grow, that truth expands, and you can see some of the things that maybe you thought were once true could have been deceptions that exist within this matrix, but then you see where others were just like stepping stones to get you to where you are. And so for me personally, I can appreciate every experience, and I can also recognize that, yeah, to people that are in my friend circle, my family circle, would say, hey, this lady is cuckoo, off a rocker,
Yeah.
Unstable, missing some marbles, however somebody wants to express it. So that's one thing for me that I can really resonate with anyone that's ever been brave enough to share their story in the public or their life experiences, that you're going to get scrutiny and you're going to have to still be brave enough to continue on and just accept it as it is and not take it personally.
Yeah, it is it can be a very treacherous and lonely and arduous journey, this journey of the one that chooses the path of the reality of life. That word is truth is often overused, and it is the truth of life. It is the way things are. That's my definition of truth. This is just simply how it is. It's how things are. And I came to realize that we are caught up in so many different realities or manufactured or I say created paradigms of perception and understandings, because we choose to take in what other people are sharing to be the ultimate reality. And I say to people, even with what I'm sharing is my perspective of it, my interpretation of it. And even though I've had these wonderful experiences, there will be some form of slight distortion going on simply because I'm still functioning and filtering it through my own personal understanding, perception, and experience of it. There is a overriding theme, which is the symbiotic or integrating aspect to sharing this information with people, that we are all integrated into this wonderful universe and a part of it and intimately connected with it through what I understand to be two unifying fields, two common threads that run through absolutely everything in this universe. I'll say actually there's three now that I'm aware of, three unifying fields and unifying threads of commonality that runs through absolutely everything in this universe. There's three of them that I'm aware of thus far. One of them we all know is love. And the other one is time. Time runs through everything because the definition of time is the duration of a creation, the duration of a manifested reality. And so we're talking about cycles of time. We're talking about spheres of time. It's like almost like all these different cogs in like a watch or a machine, and they all are connected to one another. So you have time cycles within time cycles. They're life cycles of realities. And once we understand that, then we can realize that there are beings and races out there that traverse the universe through love, and there are beings out there that traverse the universe through time, and there are beings out there that traverse the universe through this third unifying field, and that is the process of co-created agreements. In other words, universal law, LORE. That is the third unifying field, because there is nothing that takes place in this universe without it being a co-created experience. So therefore there is agreements in place with beings who are participating in any given reality, that they go in there, they co-create, and they also, you have your foundational creators of a reality, and you have people that come in, they're the facilitators of that experience, and then you have people that come in and enjoy the experience, to go into that experience. And they're also co-creators as well. So it's really amazing to understand these three unifying fields.
Oh yeah, that was excellent. It's so funny because even in the co-creator, when you were talking about the agreements and coming in, and that, I think that's where people struggle so much now, because in this compression, it's so painful that no one wants to believe that they participated in the co-creation. And so that's a huge part of taking responsibility for your journey here. And it's not that I am living every day where I don't have pain, suffering. We all experience that, but I accept that co-created aspect of myself. I do understand that. I get it because I can really see it. And I feel like if, in so much that any of us share, if we can actually take that awareness and own it, that's going to make sovereignty and appreciating and respecting your experiences here so much greater.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And it removes us from victimhood.
Yes.
And therefore we stop playing the victim role, the victim mentality, and the being that is playing the role and the beings that are playing the role of the perpetrators, they are then disempowered.
Right.
There's nothing there for them to engage with and to feed off.
Right. Well, I think that something that I'd like to really take a second look at, this might be a third actually for you and I, but in opening with my question, and I'm going to be a little bit repetitive for you, but that's because so many were interested in this, and I never shared your response openly. So this gives them an opportunity to hear from you on this when it comes to the glue. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read back to you something that you had stated. I took specific things that you shared that really resonated with people and got conversation going, that I feel would be so good for them to hear with your own voice and feel into what you're saying, so that they can look at this for themselves. But during our sessions in the past, we talked about debunking the matrix, and this was brought on from the awareness that my higher self is exploring the dichotomy of conformity and protocols, which is part of the role that I'm playing in exposing or debunking this program. And really, I didn't get that about myself until that connection was made with my higher self. I understood it immediately, and I said to you later, I said, that's why I went so silent, because I just felt like, wow, I've been exposed here. This is it. This is the thorn in my side. This is what I carry as a burden, trying to figure out how to deal with the programs that were running that created the ability for me to conform. And so you stated, when we understand that glue between the construct, ideal, concept, and the way it adheres to the human psyche, human mind, human spirit, that there glue, that substance in there, is the mystery stuff. Once we understand that membrane of adherence, or that glue, then the whole thing is going to fall apart, and we are going to debunk the whole freaking lot. That is really powerful. That was what you had said to me, and so I went back and I listened and I wrote it down. And when you expressed this, it touched so many people so deeply. And like I shared already. So if you're comfortable, I would really like for you to go into that a little bit more, so that people would get it. And I do remember that you associate it with an energetic substance, but just share however you would like to share on that.
Yeah, the glue is an interesting concept, because I had to try and understand what was actually binding the framework of these programs, of these mind viral programs created by others to be attached to my mind, to the psyche, to my own human psyche, and what was keeping them there, because there's a part of me that doesn't want them to be there. If they're still there, that means there's a part of me that does want them to be there. And until I understand what they are, it's like anything in this world, how can we actually transcend something if we don't even know what it is? We need to understand what that is in order to be able to transcend it, to understand the machinations of it, the dynamics of it, so we can end our relationship with it. We can bring closure. We can find closure in the co-creative experience that we're having with this framework of mind construct, of these mental programs. And I needed to really feel into what was adhering these programs to my own mind, my own psyche. So I felt into it deeper and deeper, and came to realize that when I actually got a visual, I could see these programs, and then there was this stuff, this substance, like a membrane, like a goo, like an energetic sort of thing that was between these mind programs and my mind, the framework of my mind, and I wanted to understand what that was in between. And the deeper I feel into it, the more I realize that it is first of all, I will sum it up. I'll give you a summary of what I feel or know about it thus far. It is distorted will.
Okay.
Now, this distorted will, because there has to be a level of will and intent for this binding to take place. So for that glue to exist, what is my role in the co-creative process of that glue in my life? Otherwise, it doesn't exist. So I'm playing, remember, everything is a co-creation.
Right.
So if we get to this habit now, rather than a habit, I'm using this wording, I'm using the word of habit, because if it becomes the norm for us, if we adopt, okay, is a better way of putting it, if we actually adopt this approach in everything, then this is how we overcome, this is how we transcend our situation with everything that is going on in our lives. So now I'm here looking at this glue, and I'm saying, what is the part of me that is co-creating for that glue to be there? And I came to realize that what that glue is made of it's made of my distorted will. And when I say distorted will, what does that encapsulate? What are the components of distorted will? And what are the reasons for it? Why would someone come at me and create and use distorted will in order for it to achieve its agenda? And this has to do with bending the rules on a universal scale. It's about overriding free will. This is how clever these energies are, and this entity is.
So when you say overriding did you say overriding the energy of free will? Or
Yeah.
I want to make sure. Okay, so when you say distorted will, because we're co-created and when we're in agreement, when you say distorted will, that's still something we would have agreed to. However, in experiencing it, we would see something that would be our will, but it's not actually our will, but it really is on a sovereign level. Is that right?
Yeah. So outside the arena, it
Okay.
is agreed that those energies or a particular entity will come along to distort our will. Now, I'm going to comment from inside the drama, inside the arena. Okay, let's
Perfect.
let's make the distinction that, because I'm always expressing myself in a multidimensional manner, and I know what I want to say, and I suppose it's difficult for people to keep up with what I'm saying, because I know what I'm trying to say, just like everybody who's listening to this. When you try to explain something to someone, you know what you want to say, but other people perceiving you aren't quite getting it. So I'll try and
I did get it, and that's why I wanted to clarify it, because at least I thought I did, and so you confirmed it. So I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, so I'm going to use the expression in this conversation of outside the arena and inside the arena.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to go back inside the arena. And so why did this entity or entities want to distort my will? Because they're also in somewhat they're participating in the arena, and there are parameters to this arena. There are rules or parameters of functionality, and the way will is expressed, there are certain parameters to it. And so for them to go totally against the way those parameters are up front, then the use of force has to be used, and they are blatantly, obviously, forcefully going against the grain and the flow of the universal creation. And that poses a whole lot of different problems. Just going to have a drink, hang on. And that poses a whole lot of different issues, because then these entities have to expend a whole lot of energy on all these other different fronts, because they've created a whole different set of circumstances. So the beings that are really more clever about the way they go controlling life in the universe, they learn how to distort will. Because then by getting the people to want to do certain things, then they don't have to try very hard at all. The people are actually wanting to do it on their own. No different, and that is what the so-called ruling elite have also adopted, because they convince the masses into needing tighter security measures, because they're feeding them the bullshit story about all these terrorist groups that want to destroy this and destroy that, and they're creating it like they've created it wonderfully.
Exactly.
Because it never used to really exist, and now all of a sudden there's all these groups that have formed because of what they've created.
Well, my stepdad was from Afghanistan, and it's so interesting because what was key for me and my awareness for 9/11 and all the things that are going on now, when I was still in that program of believing the story and getting all emotional with the patriotic belief system and everything, I confronted my stepdad, and I wanted to know where he stood on this issue, because it was such a big deal to me. And we didn't even have a relationship because it had been destroyed through a lot of things with my childhood, but I still made this contact with him. So and I'm not going to drag on to that, and I don't want to distract you, but I wanted to say, when I look back now at the beauty of having this man in my life, when I felt a lot of anguish, at some points, because he watched a lot of the abuse going on, I see, wow, I was exposed to this culture, these people outside of what's being presented in the Matrix, and I saw that these people are nothing at all like what's being presented in the media. In fact, women are put on pedestals. You could say that domestic abuse, sexual abuse, any kind of abuse exists on any level in any culture with any person that's in that agreement to experience that, but that is not their culture. That is something that's being manufactured, and it's something that is creating all of this global animosity to serve their purposes. So I just wanted to interject that, and then I'm gonna be quiet.
Yeah, and the distorted will is the distortion of will is a program that's being used ferociously now, all over this planet, in so many different ways and on so many different levels and layers. And so I needed to understand why. Why is my will being distorted? And the reason why was to get me to use my driving life force, the aspect of my life force which is a drive, which stems from passion and the element of determination, tenacity. It's a very powerful energy. There are many aspects of our archetypes caught up in that. The warrior archetype is definitely caught up in that. The protector, the provider archetypes, they're all very much immersed in those qualities and those energies.
Yes, I can see that.
So when we are being coerced and manipulated, those aspects, those qualities and those archetypal attributes and aspects of our personas, of our characteristics, then what we see happening in this world is the gullibility. Then I'll even go as far as saying naivety, but it's more gullibility of the human race to actually just succumb to the whims of these other energies, other entities. And it is no longer the individual's will that is being expressed. It is no longer an authentic. The loss of authenticity in this world is so sad, because there is no longer the natural expression of one's beingness. It is now all the will of another being expressed. So the time we take to actually create and manifest in this world, the overwhelming majority of that time is used to express the will of another. And therefore we lose.
Sorry, that is just, I mean, that's so true. I get it. That's why we go out, we wait. I mean, if we vote someone into office and we go out and we start, putting banners up and waving flags and we're expressing the will of another because we've bought into that program. We believe that that's our belief, our truth, and it's completely distorted. I mean, I can see that's just an example, but there's so many ways that you could express that in this reality.
That's right. It is. And so we have this situation here where this distorted will is tied into our passions, and we're no longer living our passions. And passion has also been misrepresented because it's been seen by so many self-righteous people caught up in their self-righteousness and their spiritual egoism. Passion has been now seen as something very negative, as though it's even bordering on anger. And people are misreading another's passion. It's happened to me regularly when I get really passionate about something. People perceive that as me getting angry, and that's not true. And so we need to realize the power in our passions, just how much energy, what a catalyst for change passion can be.
I agree 100% because I think I shared with you recently when I was talking with David, my husband, and he asked me, where I was going with my pursuit at this point, because he's been an unconditional love in my life, so supportive, but he still wants to ask questions, and I love the questions, even if they frustrate me sometimes, because I always know that he's got a very good point behind them. And one of the things that I said is like, it's I want to be passionate again. I want to live my passion, and it doesn't matter to me if anyone else gets it, if they even understand it. The people that get it, they'll get it. They're supposed to. The people that don't, they won't. It's fine. But I need to live my passion, not somebody else's, not what you just described as the distorted will. I need to live my passion. So this is resonating and making sense to me like 100%.
Yeah, it's through our passions and our determination is how they're distorting our will, because they're taking over our passions. They're convincing you into believing that your passion needs to be placed somewhere else. It's a different type of passion, and that it is that distorted will that is the glue that is binding their programs into our psyche.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so is there anything else that you need to share on the glue, or would you like to move on to the next interesting, controversial concept?
That is probably about as good as I can explain the glue at this stage.
Okay. Well, I think it was excellent. I mean, the way that you shared tonight, it was beautiful. I get it. 100%. I get it.
Fantastic.
And so now I'm going to have to go and explore this more, like really look at how this is where I've had distorted will. I mean, I don't even have to look very hard, because as soon as you were saying this, I was just looking back at all these different experiences that I've had. I'm going, yep, yes, I see it. I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about the twin flame concept? I have the twin flame is a concept that I first heard of a few years ago. Now, I mean, all your life you always hear people talk about finding their soulmate, but twin flame just was not in my awareness, my vocabulary on any level, and I've not really had a good understanding of it. So I'm going to share some of what you expressed when you wrote in your book, and when I do, that I'm going to also share with you a little bit of my lack of understanding. And if it's okay with you, I want to ask you to help me understand more of your truths about twin flames. And if that sounds good with you, that's kind of how I would like to. That's the way I would like to talk about this, just so I need to share some of the things that I've read from your book, and then just tell you like my own perception, and then let you share what you think about the way that I see it.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
That's fine with me, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, this is an excerpt from your book. And sometimes everything's not necessarily in order. It was just particular things that may have stood out to me. So something may be a complete paragraph, and then I might throw in another sentence from somewhere else that just they kind of all meant something to me.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic.
Okay. Okay, so in your book you say, so to begin the first stage of this massive undertaking, the feminine aspect of the Creator manifested herself as our Milky Way galaxy, the nurturing of the mother's milk. The masculine aspect of the Creator manifested himself as the galaxy right next to this one, the Andromeda galaxy, andros, meaning man and husband. The two are completely energetically infused with one another. They are twin flames to each other, as they are the feminine and masculine expressions of one and the same whole and sanctified essence of the universal Creator. And you also talk about the fact that this reality is a seated fractal, and we are a seated fractal. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was what I read from your book. Now, so I'm gonna explain my interpretation. Or the way that I wouldn't say explain my interpretation. I would say just express how I'm kind of hearing and feeling this from you and other people, and you can correct me and help me understand this, because this is a huge challenge for me. And is a twin flame actually oneself expressing the masculine and feminine aspect of them, or are they entirely different beings? And with us being fractals of ourselves in this reality, if we're a fractal, we're not really whole yet, because this is like I mean, to me, I just see like fractals all over the place. Like we're just expressing ourselves everywhere. So what you see here, this is not the whole Patricia. This is just a fractal of me. So
Yeah,
if
but
we came,
okay, I'll just interject there.
okay,
A fractal contains the whole.
okay, so that's huge for me.
Like, that's what a fractal is. It's a smaller version of the greater. So
Well,
all that is in the greater is expressed in the smaller.
So I would have seen the fractal not and not in the big picture of things. I would have seen the fractal as like maybe missing something right now
Oh no,
because of like a lack
I
of
think,
memory.
yeah, I think what you're confusing is the words fractal with the word fraction.
Okay.
Okay, a fraction is a smaller part of.
Okay.
A fractal is a smaller version of.
Wow. Okay. Okay. All right. I still have questions. I still have
It's like
questions.
when you look at a seed. Yeah, hold on to those questions. When you have a seed,
hmm
the whole tree is contained in that seed. The whole thing.
Okay.
So you could say that a
Yeah.
seed is a fractal of a tree.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm always whole throughout the entire process. I'm
That's right.
always Okay, so that's huge for all of us, I think, and maybe everybody else gets it. Maybe people are going to go, "Well, you dummy, you should have known that." But
No, that's
for
where
me,
no, because this is another approach, you see. This is the
okay,
beauty of this conversation. I said before we got started. You can extract, you, Patricia, have this ability to extract the information from me. And you help me express myself in a way which helps to express the information and the knowledge and the wisdom in a way that I haven't done before, which helps people to better understand.
well, thank you, and I'm really happy to hear that, and I'm happy for my understanding that this was huge to me because this was such a conflict for me. But I still have something that it'll still be unresolved. But that was huge because every time I thought about being a fractal, I still had this awareness that the higher self was a whole piece of me. And so when I would look at fractals, I would think, okay, I've got a fractal here and a fractal, I would think about the fractals in all of these different dimensions and all of these
No, they're
different
fragments.
expressions.
They're fragments. They're not
And
fractals. There's another definition. That's another thing that needs defining for you. When we have created ourselves as galaxies and planets and we're incarnated in all these other different systems all scattered throughout the universe, they're fragments. They're fractions and fragments. They're not fractals. The fractal aspect of us is within this galaxy, within the solar system, on this planet, and this human vessel. That is the fractal process.
And there was a moment of silence because she is lost.
That's okay. That's okay. If you don't get it in this moment, when you listen back over in your own time, you will understand, because when I first talked about this creation of this galaxy being the road to compression, in order for everything to start being integrated, we needed to create a smaller version of the whole. And that's why the universal creator, with the feminine aspect of the universal creator, the divine feminine, coming forth and being the foundational essence of the creation of this galaxy, because it's a womb-like reality. It's no different to, the womb within a woman, being the facilitating paradigm of the creation of a new life. And so here we have a galactic reality that was going to be a fractal. So that's why I talked about taking a entire galactic system and compressing it into the expression of a star, and then inserting that compressed version of a star into this galaxy. So now when you look at a star system here in this galaxy, what you're seeing is a portal to another galaxy. Every star in the system is a stargate to another galaxy. It's just absolutely amazing to understand
amazing.
that on that level, to really get what I just said. That every single star system in this galaxy is a portal to an entire galaxy.
I'm getting better, because when you throw me off on something and I don't get it, I'm not going to just go quiet and go, okay, on to the next subject now.
I'm helping
I'm
with the
yeah,
understanding of fractalization of
yeah, you
fractal
are.
life.
But I will still have to process. But I would like to I'm going to share an experience I recently had, since you just said that about the star systems being you said a stargate to the next dimension, next reality. I'm thinking a little bit while you're talking on that one. See?
Yeah, but can I just continue on with this thread of
Yes, you go ahead. You go
explanation?
ahead.
I feel
You
it's
go ahead.
really, really important, because I'm about to share something that I haven't shared before.
Okay, yes, definitely. Then I'm going to be quiet. Yes.
It's when we understand that every single star system, like our sun. Well, no, let's not use our sun for an example. When you go into a star out there, whether it's Regulus, whether it's Antares, for example, Sirius, doesn't matter. Every single star out there is a fractal of a galaxy. So when you go into that star, inside that star, you're entering into a stargate, which then gives you access to another galaxy. It opens up. You go into that star, it's like a doorway and a portal. And when you go through that star, it opens up to an entire galactic system in a different location. Because
That's incredible.
every single galaxy has been compressed into the expression of a star. That's why we have fractals in existence here in when we look at life from this location looking out. The people are discovering that everything is in fractal nature. Now, I'm also helping people to look at it from the other side, looking back towards this reality. So with my soul, I'm also being able to transport my awareness, my consciousness outside and beyond, and look back in. So we're now, looking at this galaxy before us, which is so dense compared to every other galaxy around us, and that's because of what I just explained. You've taken all these galaxies and expressed them in the expression of a star. Now we've taken that galaxy now coming back into the galaxy. Now we're back inside this galaxy, and we're now going to take this whole galactic reality and we're going to compress that now into a single star system. And that is our solar system. And then we're going to take this entire solar system and we're going to express that onto one planetary system, and that is our planet Earth. And then we're going to step everything down again, so another fractal yet again. And we're going to create a single embodiment, which is going to be the next compressed version of universal life. And so we created the human beingness, the human vessel. And then we're going to, and so when we look at our atoms are actually star systems. Our cells are actually galaxies. Our atoms that make up the cells, the billions of atoms that make up cells, or molecules, sorry, the other way around, molecules are galaxies. And then when we actually look at all these billions of atoms, when you look at the nuclei of all these atoms, the nuclei are the stars, and the nuclei are the portals to another galaxy. So you think, and this is the fractal nature of who and what we are. This is groundbreaking information I'm sharing with you. When you go within yourself with your own essence and you go inside, within, to your own beingness, when you want to access the universe, you access it through the nuclei of your atoms. And you can access the entire universe because you are accessing every single galaxy through the nucleus of every single atom. Or
Wow.
you can choose to go to one. So you will go through a particular atom, and you'll go into that atom, you'll go into the nucleus, and that nucleus will be the stargate for you to then move through and enter into another galactic reality. That's how we do it on the physical level.
That's amazing.
Groundbreaking information.
Yes. Very.
I
Wow.
have not accessed this understanding before. This has happened in this moment with you, Patricia, right now.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm honored to be in this moment with you and understand this. Well, I can't say understand this, to hear this and attempt to process this, because this is huge.
I am absolutely, I was not aware of this knowledge until this moment. I'm absolutely flabbergasted right now.
So am I. I feel like I'm supposed to talk, and so I'm going to say something, but I don't know what to say.
Let's just have a few seconds of silence just to let everybody
Okay.
soak it in as well who's listening. And so when we can, next time somebody wants to understand how it is we actually do it, this is how we do it. The actual real pathway and why we are fractals and how we actually access the entire universe has just been explained. And I don't know, I'm lost for words. I don't know what to say right now. This is an enormous realization of monumental proportions. Because I understand the potential of what I've just said. I'm feeling the potential of what has just been shared. Wow. Yeah. All right. Now, please say something. I need to be grounded again.
I just want to thank you so much for sharing this. You know, I didn't know bringing up twin flame would open that up for sure. And so it's almost like after you sharing this and me talking about twin flame seems a little silly.
No, it doesn't, because they're so intertwined. It's all part.
What the question, and because I didn't see coming in when I approached you, I didn't understand fractal, the difference in fractal and fraction, and the way that we're experiencing this reality. So, and I know there's so much pain associated for people with either not knowing who their twin flame is, or believing that they've had an experience with their twin flame to get crushed and feel like, oh, well, that really wasn't a twin flame. I know that some put their lives on hold and won't allow any relationships because they have to know that they have a twin flame. And I mean just casual relationships that could not even move over into like a sacred union type relationship, which is the way I would see a twin flame. The heart, and see, I'm going to have to try to figure out how to even talk to you about this now, because I came in with a different concept of what twin flame was, based on my understanding of fractal. And the way that I was going to approach it was thinking that we're not really whole, that we're fractals or fractions now. And so I'll go away from this right now because I don't want to take away from what you just shared. So I kind of want to let that rest and let people process that, because when people go back and replay this, as I will, we're going to have to take time to really feel into it, process it, and come into the awareness that you just expressed. But when we look at, for example, we know that we're having multiple incarnations all throughout this universe. On our planet specifically, and this will be something that can help me with the twin flame, and it'll kind of segue from where we were, but for me personally, the way that I feel about this is that knowing that I came into this universe and all these fractals that still that are existent of me everywhere throughout this universe, I wouldn't see a limitation on how many fractals of me there are, because I wouldn't even know how to number them. But is there a limit? Is there any kind of limitation to how many fractals of yourself can be on our Mother Earth body now? And if so, how does that affect the twin flame relationship, or does it? Does it even does my question even relate like that?
Yeah, well, it's a really good question, and I guess that if I look at the aspect of me that I've met, that I know I'm a tree, mm-hmm. and I look at the aspect of me that I've come across in this life, and I've known the aspect of me in the mineral kingdom, and also I've experienced aspects of me in incarnations in other star systems as extraterrestrial and interdimensional beings, then they are exactly that. They are aspects. It is only in the human form that we are fractals. So they are fragments, they are aspects of, they are not fractals of.
Can you share the difference? I need to understand, because I have my own perception, and I don't want to pull out a dictionary and say, okay, well, let me look at fractal, fragment, and fraction. When you say fragment and what's the difference to you when you're saying fractal and fragment? How do you see that?
If you take an apple, for example,
mm-hmm.
and you take that apple, which is, you can hold it in your hand, and then you express that apple, you shrink that apple down to the size of a pea.
Okay.
But the apple is still the apple.
Right.
Pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
Then that is a fractal, that smaller version of something much bigger. The whole apple is then compressed into something very small. But if I take that large apple and I take the knife and I cut a piece off that apple, a little piece, and I place it over somewhere else, then that's a piece of the apple. It's not the entire apple. So that is a fragment of the apple, or a fraction of the apple.
Okay.
Or an aspect of the apple. That piece, it's a piece of, it's a part of. So piece of, part of, fragment of, fraction of, and aspect of, pretty much, generally speaking, all mean the same thing. Fractal of is something different. Fractal of sits distinctly apart from all those other expressions, because a fractal is the smaller, complete thing expressing itself in a much more compressed and dense and smaller version of.
Okay, so when you now look at our journey into this universe, and you know that you entered in the first level, like the 12th dimension, I would say, okay, and you've gone and you've explored these levels, and you go into the nursery of the souls, and then we start exploring and decide how far we want to whether we want to really explore this universe in entirety, or we say, hey, thanks, it was great, good open house, but I'm out of here. Do you see that all aspects, and I just want to be clear, I think I'm understanding, but I want to be clear so I can look at this later and grasp this too. So the portion, the higher self of me that is projecting itself through all of these dimensions, in each level, am I seeing fractals, fragments, or fractions of myself? I know that you're saying that we're fractals. A fractal is of the
You're
whole.
seeing fragments. You're seeing aspects.
So I'm seeing am I seeing fragments? I'm seeing fragments of the whole.
Yeah, your inner self or higher self is the one that is a fractal.
Okay.
But all those other,
I was going to say that, and I didn't know if that sounded right. Okay, fractal.
all those other aspects are exactly that: aspects, fragments, fractions, pieces of it.
Okay.
Because they're projections from the aspect, from your fractalized nature of the greater you. So your inner self and your higher self, which are one and the same thing. I prefer inner self now rather than higher self.
Okay, well that's fine.
Just to try and really just move away from that hierarchical thing, if we can. It's very difficult to do so. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so from the inner self, we project into all these other realities. So then they're all the fragments, and that's why we've come into this world as a fractal, because we needed to reintegrate all those fragmented aspects of self. We're taking all of them through the eye of the needle, because everything what we embody here is a fractal of everything that we've seen, done, and been in this universe. That's why the construct of our bodies, our temples, are fractals of the universe.
Okay. And so now I'm having to process that wording. I got it.
Hang on. Okay. If we just to complete the explanation, if we, because this is going on the model of the universe I present. So let's say I'm right about this. So if I'm right about this, and if we are at the end of our universal journey, and we have seen, done, and been everything there is to see, do, and be, that means we have entered into every single reality. So there's a part of us that is in every single one of those galaxies, planetary systems, dimensional realities, and dimensional paradigms. Every single one.
At all times?
No, not necessarily. Well, okay. From the greater, from outside the arena, yes, at all times.
Okay, yeah.
Because the past, the past, present, and future exist simultaneously in no time. Now, inside the arena, there are aspects of us that have gone into realities and are no longer there. But the residue back through time, well, of course we're still there. But just in linear fashion, no, we're not there anymore. There are realities where we are still there. We have aspects of us still there. And so that means that the setup of our bodies being what I talked about, the molecules being galaxies and the atoms being, and molecules and cells being like galactic realities, you could say, and the atoms being star systems. That is why we have access to all of those, because we actually have been in all of those. So we're intimately connected to all of those realities already. That's why we have access to them all.
Well, once I feel like that, and this may change some of where I go later as we talk, because everything's going on the thought process that I had about fractals earlier. So I'm gonna have to try to kind of feel my way through this a little bit. But so I want to go back to this one thing. So as far as the incarnations that we're currently having on planet Earth, on Mama Earth, is there a limitation to how many experiences that we can be having on her body right now? Because I do feel that who you're speaking with right now is not just the only aspect of myself here. Am I feeling that incorrectly? Is that part of my distorted perception, or is that am I right about that?
I'm speaking to all of you.
But is there a limitation?
The limitation will only be what we impose as a limitation.
What we chose.
Yeah, but really my being, what my intention as I communicate to you is to speak to all of you.
Right. Well, how does, okay, so I can't say with 100% assurity that I know that I'm in a relationship with my twin flame, or that I've had a relationship with my twin flame. I can use points of reference that were very intense, that would make me aware that these, a particular relationship had a certain amount of, I would say, importance because of the awareness that it brought to me. Not so much that it was so much important than other relationships, but that was just like something that really just was just like a huge moment. When I just want to be sure I cover this, because I really did get so caught up, and I am still in the fractal fractions, and what you shared about the star system. So that's, of course, really, I'm really feeling that inside, and so I'm a little distracted by it. But I want to make sure on the twin flame aspect, where people are so much in suffering because they don't have that person. When you enter into, first of all, is it necessary that you have a relationship with the twin flame in every reality? I don't think necessarily that's the case. If you do or don't, what does that mean, and why is it so important to have a twin flame relationship?
Well, ultimately, we need to reintegrate the feminine and masculine aspect of our beingness.
Okay.
So in any given moment on this planet, is there people that, some people in previous lives may have integrated that, may have gone through that integration. And in this life, they don't need to, so they may not have access to a twin flame relationship in this life.
Is the twin flame, and this is one of my biggest questions, is the twin flame an aspect of yourself, or is it someone else?
No, the twin flame is an aspect of self. So when one person looks at a twin flame, like say me as a man will look at my counterpart.
Okay.
It's looking at me in the feminine expression.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That has been baffling me because I've read everything. I've looked at the way that the twin flame is described. I think that I feel very strongly that I've had an interaction with my twin flame in this lifetime, and it was the most beautiful and the most painful experience that I can say. In my background, it was the most beautiful and painful experience that I've had, because I literally felt like when I was with this person that it was so painful. I couldn't feel separate from him. I would say to this person, I feel like I need to climb inside of your body, and I don't know how to explain this to you, because if I was touching skin to skin, face to face, it wasn't even a sexual thing. I felt like this was so much me that I had to meld into this person.
It's like when you look at this person, you see you looking back at you.
Yes, but I also realized that and this is what was so significant at the time. Of course, I didn't understand it on any level. Now looking back, and if it were not for this interaction that I had with this being that I consider another aspect of myself, it propelled me. This relationship propelled me into the next level that would push me into going into my sovereignty, to becoming aware of my sovereignty. But we would never, because our incarnations were experiencing different experiences, and one so much more exploring and is still exploring the conformity and the protocols that aspect of myself is still so deep in that the separation had to occur for the balance. Oh my goodness. Hello. Thank you. I'm getting this. So this person is still over here just, I mean, and in misery. I know the misery they're feeling because it's tearing them apart because every day they're having to conform and live to this concept of submission, of enslavement, of not being free and sovereign, while I'm expressing myself more as the free and sovereign being. And I see it clearly.
Mm.
And that was the only way that twin flame made sense to me. It wasn't something that was outside of me. It had to be it had to be my masculine and my feminine expressions and me coming into contact. And for me, I would say, well, I don't know how these people could actually stay together because mine was so volatile.
Yeah, and also we have this other dynamic going on, which is confusing the issue with the twin flame relationships, is that you've got the alien love bite, which is a scenario, which is a beautiful expression by Evie Logan. What an amazing woman Evie is, because I'm obviously involved in our RISE community and we get to communicate behind the scenes in private meetings and what have you. And I love Evie's so onto it. And I've experienced personally alien love bite scenarios. Mm-hmm. And so people get confused. They think it's a twin flame relationship, but it was an alien love bite. And the only way we're going to really know is when we reference the love that resides in our souls.
Right.
Because the love that resides in our souls is the same love that one experiences with a twin flame. It has the same energy. It is really an amazing experience.
Well, and it is so unconditional because I just remember, I can remember every smell, every taste, and again, it's something we all know what lust is. We all know what those moments are, but this is something that you get to where you just, I can remember every single minute of every experience, and I can remember the beauty, the pain. I still feel it. It's not like I can't even say I remember it. I still feel it. And I also have felt, and again, so I hope people understand this. It doesn't take away from the love that I have for my husband, David, because I know that this is the man that is playing the biggest role in my experience of allowing me to explore who I am with so much unconditional love. And I wouldn't even, and I don't know if this would make sense to someone that's with their twin flame. I wouldn't want to be with that person with what they're experiencing right now, because that part of me is in misery. That part of me is struggling and in pain. And I would say, I want to go and rescue and save, but I can't, because I can see that it's not about it. That's an experience that aspect has to go through, and it needs that. And it's going to make so much sense later. But where I am.
That's great wisdom. That is really what you just expressed is incredibly powerful wisdom, that you have that capacity of unconditional love just to allow that aspect of self to go through the process of learning through one's experiences. I think that's just beautiful.
Well, and thank you so much. And I have to reciprocate back to you with a thank you, because when you brought into my awareness the debunking that was necessary of this conformity, it just made so much sense, because that aspect of myself, we went through all of this. We went through this painful, what separated us was my in my feminine expression, not being able to conform on this level.
Well, you see, I'm sorry to interject, but I really want to explain, because I'm really feeling people's anguish around the subject. And, previous life, maybe the people who are feeling anguish in this life had the experience of a twin flame relationship, and I didn't. It's not about. Please don't be jealous of anyone who's in one. Don't be envious. That would be such a sad trap to fall into. There's pros and cons of having a twin flame relationship now, at this point in time in the journey of the human race on this planet, because they are attacked so ferociously. Because the energy that is given off by that unified field of love is of such detriment to the matrix and its overlords. It is a very, very difficult situation to be in a twin flame relationship now. And there are people who have that set up in their lives, and there are people who are experiencing, I don't feel like there's just rules. I will say that the option for people to experience all sorts of dynamics in the world of love and relationships is because all possibilities are open here. So there will be people who will experience having a twin flame relationship and will experience being split apart in this world. There will be people who will have twin flame relationships and will be experiencing nothing but pure peace, love, and bliss, which there are very, very, very few and far between. And then there's relationships that, there's people who are not in twin flame relationships and are having a far better time of it than people who are in twin flame relationships, simply because of the individual circumstances around those relationships and the karmic, charges around them. And what was set up by those beings within those relationships to be experiencing their interaction with this matrix, and what parameters of interaction are taking place. So we need to get out of this this thing of jealousy and envy and ideology. Please let go of the idealism of twin flame relationships, because it's poisoning your life. It does. Is there something sacred about them? Of course there is, because it's the unification of the divine masculine and divine feminine. But you'll be doing yourself a real disservice if you keep hanging on to the romanticism and the ideology, the ideals or the ideology of a twin flame relationship, because all you're doing is, on a spiritual level, doing the same thing people do when they look at trash magazines and they're envious and jealous of couples out in the public domain. I wish I was married to him. I wish I had her life, and all this jealousy and envy, and the devaluation of one's current set of circumstances and the worthlessness that is creeping into one's life because of these yearnings, these achings, these jealousies, these envies. Please don't allow that to happen in your life. Really, you've got to try and understand what they are, what they're about, and then just leave it at that, and the people who are entering into these relationships, the calling will come from within your heart. You will know that it is pending. And there's people who are coming to this world who are not going to have that in this life, because they've probably had it before we did. So there's that pain, and that suffering will only cause more pain and suffering. So I really wanted to get that out. It's been something that has been needing to be said for some time now regarding this issue.
Well, thank you. I mean, I really appreciate you sharing that, because I agree with you. It's a very painful subject, and I feel like that people that, and I would be one included, if I would deny the twin flame, it would be because I didn't understand it. And if I accepted it, it would be because I just wanted that romanticized love so much. It wasn't coming from a place of either understanding it. It was on any level. It was,
What about the possibility of a being wanting to experience the twin flame relationship from the dynamic of the same-sex partners in this life, in this world.
Right.
You know, what about that possibility? And I don't see that as being ruled out. I feel that is something that is happening in this world.
Well, I think that in those relationships, if you look at it from a media standpoint, they will be upset if you say, well, who's the male and who's the female. But if you actually have friendships with these people, they will let you know openly one's playing a male role and one's playing a female role,
Exactly.
even though I've got friends that are experiencing that, and they say that it's just the media that kind of makes you
Exactly.
feel like you got to be politically correct, you know. But
Exactly. No, and even when we go out to extraterrestrial races now, and they have they are androgynous physically. They're physically androgynous. Every single race, with no exception, there is no exception to this out there in the universe. Every single race has the beings that are orientated towards the feminine and the beings that are orientated towards the masculine.
right.
There is absolutely no exception.
Right. And I want to interject this just really quickly. I want to say, if I had stayed in a relationship with this aspect of myself, I would have been miserable. And at the same time, I value every second of the experience that I had, because it was beautiful and miserable both, and I see it. And I also am so glad that you clarified that this is an aspect of myself, but because I honestly could not. And I've had conversations with friends, you know, prior to us talking tonight, because I wanted, you know, people to express what they felt about twin flames. And so many people now, including myself, had a doubt about it, because it has been so romanticized and played up to be something that it's not. And so I feel like taking the time to acknowledge what the twin flame relationship is, and the fact that it's not just, you know, we're going to love one another unconditionally and forever. We're going to feel in this state of bliss together. Now, all of this journey is grand, and maybe that's part of the loneliness for people. Maybe the separation, again, compression, separation, creates that longing, like they need that like they feel like if they don't have that aspect of themselves, they're lost, maybe.
Well, the yearning for reunification with that aspect will
Yeah.
always be there in everyone.
Yeah.
As long as we're experiencing this this expression of fragmentation, which will seem like a total contradiction to what I talked about as our vessel being a complete fractal of who and what we are.
Well, the desire to connect to that again, and not having it. See, that could create two different emotions. That could create
the only
a
division,
longing, and it could create a denial.
the only if you want to look at it as though it's a division, the only division occurring that's left beyond the human vessel aspect of self is the unification. Because the very first, you know, I've said this often, the very first expressions that have been from the soul level, the very first division that takes place into a feminine expression and a masculine expression.
Right. Well, I'm saying that could also, just think about it. If you,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, just think about, like, if you, in this reality, if you're not experiencing the twin flame, but you are hearing other people that are saying, well, I've met my twin flame, but, and not from a true standpoint, but from the misconstrued standpoint of this is a relationship with the twin flame, and somebody saying, well, no, that they're not buying into that anymore because they see that as some fairy tale now. So that could also create a denial that the twin flame exists, because it could create that for me. I can see that easily.
Oh, it's easy to say that, it's just a fairy tale. I mean, and because it's the pain speaking. It's not
exactly.
It's not the person. It's not, you know, those sorts of comments are made by people who just are in too much pain and can't go there. They can't deal with the fact that they're not in one. And the pain is controlling the situation.
Yeah,
so,
I get that.
I was there. It's taken. Yeah. It's difficult, and also the ideology that one must be in a twin flame relationship in order to ascend. What a load of crock.
Right. Or to even enjoy your reality, because I don't have to be in that. And I'm not saying that the person that is not happy, but I'm saying I don't have to be in that relationship to be happy either.
Exactly.
Not, I don't want to just say be happy.
Because you're
I
not
want to
living in
say,
the moment, you see. If someone is really, really miserable because they're not in that ideological relationship, then again they're living in that ideology. They're putting too much emphasis on the ideology, and they're not living in the moment.
right. And I would say, it does take an awareness of self to see yourself in and out of these relationships, and what you're taking in every relationship that you're experiencing, really.
Yeah, and in the unification of the masculine and the feminine energy is the last great divide. It is
Right.
when those two unite is when you really go back home. And and that's why here we have the human vessel, the fractal of the universe, and we have it in a masculine and a feminine expression. There is no androgyny going on here. Simply from the point of view, it is the last point of integration, and we're
Right.
all going through the process of reintegrating with the. I'm a masculine embodied in the masculine, my masculine expression embodied in the masculine, and I'm going through the process of integrating with my feminine aspect. And you do it symbiotically. You've got to be able to do it within yourself, not just, having to be in a twin flame relationship in order for that to occur. That's not true. I needed to begin to integrate my with the divine feminine of my inner self first. See,
Yes.
otherwise, if I fall victim to the ideology of a twin flame relationship and think that I must be in a relationship with my twin flame in order for me to become complete, then I'm still externalizing.
And I think what you just have shared will help in the healing process for so many, because when you're looking for this twin flame outside of yourself, then you still feel like you're lacking and missing something.
Yeah.
When you see that this twin flame is an aspect of you, it's your masculine or feminine aspect of yourself, then you're not lacking at all. It's just a matter of whether or not you are experiencing that aspect of yourself currently.
Well, there's all
In
sorts
this
of
particular moment,
scenarios, Patricia.
yes.
There's all sorts of scenarios. I mean, you think of how many different lives there are in this world, how many different variations and variables in these lives. Some people will meet up with their twin flame afterwards. Some people will
Right.
meet up right at the end of the event. Some people have already met. Some people have met, split up, and will come together again. There's just so many different variables of this whole twin flame scenario taking place. That's why it's really important that we don't get caught up in the ideology and the romantic nature or notions, the romantic notions of it and the ideology of it, and start living in the moment and be really grateful for the love that we do have in our lives
Oh, yes,
now,
so true. Yes, definitely. I
instead
mean,
of yearning for something beyond what we have now, because
yeah,
that is just poison.
exactly. Well, had I asked this question to you, and had you responded to me with the twin flame is your long lost love from, I would have been like, okay, I'm done with the twin flame, because in me, when I recognized my sovereignty, I recognized that there could be no such thing as a twin flame that didn't exist as an aspect of myself, because that would attach me to something outside of myself. And I knew for me that didn't work. I knew that wasn't truth. And so I was like, I don't know if he says that, I don't even know what to ask next. Because I couldn't connect to that. It would just be, okay, well, then I guess either twin flame is true from that aspect of the way he's sharing it, and I just don't understand it, or it's just bunk altogether. So to me, this is the only way the twin flame has credibility or truth in it, is that it is an aspect. It is the masculine, feminine aspect of self. So
Yes.
thank you.
Well, this is right now was as good as I could answer it at this point in time in my life, and I was able to answer it better than I have before, I feel, because
Oh, I think you did fantastic.
of my
Yeah.
experience with it.
Yeah. Fantastic.
All right, we will pause it here. Stay with us as we will have a short break and be right back with more of this intriguing and revelatory dialogue. We are submersed in a construct that was designed to break us and keep us broken, but it hasn't. It failed. We still go on because we were designed from an eternal template of infinite creativity and not a synthetic house of cards built on pride and false power. Breaking free from the programs and paradigms that hold us down takes courage, endurance, tenacity, and trust. The reason it is so hard is because to be a free and sovereign being, we have to smash every lie, even if it hurts. It is good to be reminded of how resilient, unbreakable, magnificent, and powerful we truly are. And if anything provides a foundation for that, it is the book Our Universal Journey. Go to ouruniversaljourney.com.au. Music for this episode is brought to you by John Richards. The album, Elysian Fields, and is available through MG Music at medwingoodall.net. Welcome back to part 2 of episode 29, A Universal Dialogue, on Superwoo Radio with Patricia Farrington, as we now continue where we left off.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing that. I feel like that what you have shared is going to clear up some questions that a lot of us have had, and I mean, it may create new questions in others, but I feel like for most people, it's going to bring about some resolution and some new awareness that they hadn't had. It did for me, and actually, it confirmed where I saw the twin flame concept. So now onto something else.
Yeah.
Unconditional love. This is something that is another area where people tend to struggle. So I'm going to share something that you wrote in your book, and that I'm going to just ask you a couple of questions after that. You wrote in your book, I'm share. Well, you said, hang on, I'm sharing. Okay, in the fifth dimension and above, you put there are no words that can express what the fifth dimension truly feels like, although there is a word that comes close, and that word is grace. In these higher realms, we are talking about light that is so fine that one experiences a continual state of being of unconditional love. Also, there is no technology in the fifth dimension and above, so as everything is manifested and achieved using our organic consciousness. In these higher realms, there is no such thing as the concept we call evil. Our aspects in the higher self realms, and I know you like inner self now, so I'll say our aspects in the inner self realms have the capacity to be all things at the same time. There we still have access to the universal consciousness and can experience what it is like to be the universe at any given moment. Therefore, we know everything about everything in this universe. And so to that, I would say, wow. Because yes, if we know everything about everything, when that is true, it makes total sense that we would know and be unconditional love. However, there's discord, disharmony, conflict, however one would view this, around this being possible in this reality that we're in right now. So I would ask you, do you feel that experiencing, expressing, being unconditional love is a true possibility in this reality that we're currently experiencing?
If you were 100% true unconditional love in this reality, you would be shining a great light. And
okay.
It would create too much discord on the planet. So right now, nobody has the capacity to be 100% unconditional love.
So when, and see, this is,
you can get close. There's people that are moving towards that and integrating a great deal of that and expressing that. I'm far more unconditionally loving today than I was even yesterday, or especially a year ago or 2 years ago. So we're all moving towards that because we're integrating with that. We're bringing that here. We're making that more present. So I feel people are, again, spending too much time being intellectual about these concepts and not understanding the integrative and merging process with embodying the soul and becoming unconditional love in this reality.
Well, I was discussing this with a friend, and her perception is you couldn't experience unconditional love in this reality, and the only place that she had experienced unconditional love was through Mother Earth. And I was saying, well, I couldn't agree with that. But then I really thought about when I was, going to have this conversation with you, and I thought about what she said, and I thought about my experiences and how I interpret it, and then I had to come to another self, realization. So I know for me personally as a mother, in this reality with my current awareness, even with the existence of the Matrix now, I still love my children unconditionally. There's nothing, there's zero that would cause this love to cease. Nothing. Even if their intent was to inflict harm on me, or whatever, way that they have chose to express themselves in this life, I could not stop loving them. It would be impossible for me. But I know that there are also mothers that don't actually, express that in this reality. But then I was like, wait, you know what? I said I have unconditional love for my children. I didn't include anyone else in that. I didn't say I have unconditional love for David. I didn't say I have unconditional love for George. I didn't say I have unconditional love for Patricia. I said unconditional love for my children.
Yeah, but even that unconditional love you have for your children, it's not a constant 100% of the time. And people are getting mixed up in their heads with this concept because you can't be in that unconditional love place 100% of the time. I've often said that we are having moments of experiencing our fifth dimensional selves. People go, because people have been duped into thinking the fifth dimension is some sort of destination we must achieve to go to. Whereas we're actually the doorways that I spoke of and the portals are opening up inside of us, and we're bringing more and more of that multidimensional self and inner self is now coming forth. And so we're accessing and expressing that unconditional love more often today than we did yesterday and 6 months ago and a year ago. So we are having moments of it, and sometimes we can experience it in a very intense way, which means we are integrating and bringing forth that unconditional love in a more substantial manner than we ever have before. But we can't hold that charge constantly. And we're not supposed to yet, because
so it's not. Sorry, go ahead.
Because it'll just create too much discord in the world.
Okay, so unconditional love is not a yes or no. It's a not a always thing. It's not. It's not really. It's not right or wrong. It's yes, you're going to experience unconditional love, and there's going to be times that you don't. It's not either or. True or false?
Yeah, it's not. It's like there's times when you're going to experience it, and we're heading towards being that in the constant state of that. We're heading towards that. But right now, and people will say, well, how can full-blown unconditional love create discord? That's a contradiction right there. Well, it would, because obviously people aren't taking into consideration the amount of your expressive nature in this world and how it has a ripple effect in this world, how it affects others. And then you know, understanding that unconditional, that state of being, of energy, right? Let's look at it. Let's get away from the label and just say that state of being of energy. If I was to fully embody that right now, it would freak so many people out. It's too much. I mean, even now when I walk, and I'm sure everybody listening to this has experienced it, that when you go back to your family and friends and you're in that really empowered state, which there's much more of you present, doesn't that freak them out? Doesn't that rub them off the wrong way and piss them off?
Yes.
You know, and they do everything in their power to have a go at you and just bring you back down to their level or even diminish you further. Right? So you've got to understand the ripple effect of our emanating energies here in this world, in this reality. Because what we need to take into consideration is other people's souls' journey, what they need to be experiencing that's in the best interest for their soul, their journey, their growth. And if we go and saying just because of an ideology, oh, I want to be this almighty and unconditional loving being, well, you're going to be emanating an energy and you're actually going to be imposing upon their experiences. So, and you're not being unconditional in that moment. Your thought processes are actually conditional because you're only thinking about yourself and you're only thinking about an ideology, the idea of instantly clicking your fingers and making this world instantly beautiful, you know, and that's not reality.
So you're actually denying too, to a certain extent, if I say to someone, well, I do, because I know I have felt unconditional love, but I also had to come to the realization that I don't offer it freely to everyone. But if I impose the fact that, well, yeah, I've experienced unconditional love, I know it, and someone's saying, well, I just don't buy it, I'm also in a way devaluing their experience and it's making them feel lesser because, well, oh, she feels unconditional love, but I haven't experienced it. That's kind of like a self-righteous thing too, right?
It is in a way. It is.
Yeah,
in a way.
I mean, that's what I feel right now after expressing it with this person. Like, oh, I feel like I was such a
And I've done that
toad.
too. And I've done that too. I've done it in interviews. I've done it with friends. I've done it with family. And, you know, but it's because we haven't the wisdom to deal with that much energy yet as well. We're still a little bit immature in the way we're actually handling that amount of energy. And we're getting better at it. I'm much better today than I was, you know, last week in regards to handling the energies. And we get, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 5 steps forward, 4 steps back, 3 steps forwards, and sometimes we'll go 6 or 7 steps back. But the general curve, the general momentum is forward always. And we've got to not be
Right.
so judgmental or hard on ourselves either, and just understand that we need to take other people's journeys and where they're at into consideration a lot more than we're currently doing.
True. Yeah, very true. I mean, I see that clearly. Yeah. I mean, you're, I talked myself out of it while I was trying to prove my point anyway,
Yeah.
which was what was so funny. I was like, I'm talking myself out of this. All right. Okay. So, there's another area of sovereignty.
Mm.
Okay.
That's great, because I
And,
was just thinking about, I didn't quite finish wanting to say everything about
oh,
unconditional
no,
love,
okay. No, you go ahead.
but it ties in with sovereignty because, there's, we have our own integrity and the love of our soul and our inner self, which is coming to the surface and coming forth. And there are times when we do need to express that, and it does rub people up the wrong way. See? But then,
Hmm.
and now this is going to be like a contradiction to what I just previously said. But you got to understand the dynamics of life, okay? So now all of a sudden we're in the situation where we do need to make a stand, and we need to be assertive, and we need to defend our sovereignty and our integrity and that authentic nature and our soul expression. And that's being unconditional. Like, in other words, there's no conditions here. I'm going to make a stand here, and whether you like it or not, I don't give a shit, basically.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's unconditional love as well, because there's no conditions. See, love, if people say love is all there is, okay, well, okay, let's look at that statement. Love is all there is. And I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but it's a very important tangent.
All right.
Love is all there is. What does that mean to you?
Um, it doesn't ring true in this reality to me. I see it from a higher inner self uh, level, but in this reality, I couldn't say that love is all there is.
Well, if love is all there is, that means evil exists within love. Because evil exists. People go, oh,
True.
evil's just an illusion. It doesn't really exist. Well, hang on a minute. there's a baby being raped in the world right now. I've
Right.
been on the receiving end of being raped and tortured. What are you talking about? What an insane, deluded statement to say that evil does not exist. That is total denial of reality, And so if
Mhm.
love is all there is, then that means evil exists within love.
Oh, this is going to be interesting because we're going to be talking about this soon.
Right? So we've got to take an understanding of that the creator of this universe, there is no judgment. There is
Mhm.
experiences and co-creations. And so when we fall into that trap of ideological spiritual ideologies and ideological spiritualism, it's so dangerous, because you're really narrowing your scope of understanding of the greater magnitude of the dynamics of life and the machinations of life in this universe. It's going into a very narrow band of scope and sight. And so we've got to realize that when we talk about unconditional love, well, from that place of inner self, higher self, fifth dimension and beyond, all those other realms, they're all the realms that are the composing realms, the conductors and the orchestrators of all these experiences within the great arena. So who do you think is creating all these evil experiences? We all are together.
Right.
Yeah? So there is no judgment here. But to say it doesn't exist and there's only love and everything's beautiful and the rest is all just an illusion is a psychosis, basically, on a universal scale.
Okay. I'm going to read a little bit of some of what was in your book, what is in your book, and then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You express in your book, the consciousness and spirit of the planet Saturn is insanely jealous of who the sun and the earth are and what they are creating here. It is Saturn who sees himself to be the exalted one. So who is the consciousness and spirit of the planet Saturn? It is an aspect of the God who is claiming to be the creator and ruler of all life on all levels of all that is and all that exists. It is the God of religions. The cosmic entity is androgynous, but we are currently dealing with its masculine expression and aspects. He embodies the archetype of the authoritarian, the dominant father, and the taskmaster. He has issues of control and places limitations on us, therefore providing the challenge of working through these limitations. Saturn is a planetary aspect of the creator of the false synthetic light constructs and resultant paradigms and dimensional realities. He is the master of the passive-aggressive programs. He is the keeper of time as we know it, and is therefore the creator and keeper of the matrix. Because of who and what we are, this cosmic entity, as Saturn, has wanted nothing more than to take control of this solar system and specifically our Earth Mother and her humanity. Saturn is not the creator of this star system, so he needed to find a way to take control of it. He could only do this by manipulating the existent energetic patterns or foundational frequencies and then go about implementing his own programs. That's kind of interesting because that may go back to the distorted will also that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, when people get into numbers and they get into time and, oh, look, it's, this, and they get into dates and all that. Well, there's two things going on there. They're getting into the time code and the time sequence and the new timeline that's being created here for this reality, which is peeling and severing the human race from its own planetary mother. And the other thing is sometimes we can understand that we're getting messages from within the matrix, which are to our benefit to say that we are in the groove, but not all of them are doing that. Others, you got to be careful that you don't get duped by all that synchronicity, because there's a lot of orchestrated synchronicity going on as well.
Like when you see people get, and I've done this myself in the past, if the clock says, okay, it's 1:11, 2:22, 3:33, 4:44, 5:55, I mean, I do that, and I'm like, I'm seeing all these synchronicities because I see this so much, and I'm like, what does that mean? What am I supposed to be looking for? So, like when you're saying you're being duped at synchronicities, I'm like, what does that mean when people? Is that revealing the time matrix? Is that a synchronicity with self, or what is that?
People must always remember that it is always in reference to the matrix of time.
Okay.
That's what it is a reference to. And people think that it's actually a reference to something much more majestic, and it's not. And it's not.
See, I'm guilty.
What are those numbers a part of? Those numbers are a part of the false timeline and the time sphere that we have been entrapped in.
So what is it? If I see that, what is that telling me?
Well, it's like, it's in that moment you are in a open and conscious relationship with the matrix. So whenever you have something unusual occur in your life, it's kind of like when in the movie The Matrix, you got the woman in the red dress, or deja vu, or something like that, or the synchronicity of time. All of a sudden, it's you got to realize that it is a more substantial connection to the matrix and a portal, the possibility of a portal beyond the matrix. Maybe.
I'm having those.
Maybe.
I don't look at it as I don't see it as a spiritual thing, like like God is talking to me, or my ascended masters are sending me a message or anything like that. I just see like it's an awareness, and I'm trying to figure out what am I supposed to be aware of. That's the way I look at it. Like, okay, I see it, but what does it mean?
Yeah.
So.
And when I say it, maybe we've got to understand that it's a case-by-case interpretation. Okay. So, in a few hours from now, you'll see certain numbers and you go, oh, and then you'll see, oh, really, I've had times where even nature spirits were giving me false synchronicities. So even in the realm of nature, because all the nature spirits have been, the realm of nature on this planet has also been manipulated and co-opted as well. So nature entities and even beings that can shapeshift can make themselves look like birds. So you've got to actually, or whatever creatures. So you got to be careful because you got to feel the energy of the moment. Is the only way to really tell and discern between once you start delving into the world of synchronicities. And I know Tom Montauk is really exceptionally good in understanding that concept, and I do know he's got some material on his website in regards to this subject matter. So I recommend if people want to understand orchestrated synchronicities. I haven't read Tom's material. But just I know Tom personally, of course, and I know that his work is really exceptional in this area.
Excellent. Well, I've in our Rise Multiversity roundtable that we participated in, that was my first interaction or my even awareness of him, and so I haven't really looked at his material, but just you. Bringing that up, I will definitely look at it because it's something that I've wondered about because I don't want to be misled, and it's interesting because I've never really spoken to anyone on this level about it because I saw that it was kind of a big new agey type thing, and I see how people connect to it, and so when I see it, I don't say, "Oh yay!" But I'm not saying I haven't because I did originally. Now I go, okay. And I do think, okay, is my higher self trying to tell me something? Is the universe trying to tell me something? Is this, what am I supposed to take notice of? And honestly, deception didn't enter into my mind. I felt like at the time that people were deceived at what they thought it was. I never even took into account, well, maybe I'm being deceived by something.
Yeah.
There again.
Yeah, we just got to be more aware of orchestrated synchronicities. I think once we understand that concept a bit better, then we can better navigate our way, and we won't be duped as easy by clever tricks in this reality.
Okay. Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. I mean, that really that was good for me to hear.
Yeah, and Tom Montauk is such a beautiful and a man of great integrity. So I recommend people to get in touch with his work too.
Okay, well, I will definitely look at it. But what I wanted to ask you about this entity that's proclaiming to be
the big stuff. So you're gonna
the big stuff.
Let's dive into the big juicy stuff now. Okay.
Yes. So I was gonna say, while we know we're infinitely sovereign, but we're experiencing the loss of our sovereignty. In your interactions with this being, and this is going to be probably maybe one of the craziest questions you've ever been asked. I don't know. I want to know because I've had such an intimate relationship with him, not in the same way that you have, but in my life experiences, in the way that I have conformed to his wishes, the way that I have played his game and participated in his insanity. He gets so much praise and he appears so powerful, but he causes so much pain. And I know that we have the Moon Matrix and the Queen Bee and the King D, and I don't even understand who all these players are now, really. But just the Saturn being, what is he like outside of his role? Do you know him like outside of this role?
Outside of the role of the planetary expression.
Yes. Have you seen his better side?
Does he have a better side?
Have you seen it?
Well, we're referencing the masculine expression of that entity because it's androgynous,
yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course it does. It has some of the better aspects are.
Now, I know he does. I'm saying, have you experienced? Like, have you witnessed it?
Yeah, I've experienced it.
Okay, that's what I wanted I know it exists. I just don't know what he's like. So that aspect of him, so I was curious what he's like outside of this totalitarian, religious fanatic.
Well, it has an aspect of self that does have a love for humanity, a level of love, I will say. For the human race. It can't help but have that love for the human race. And I don't think there's any being in the universe that can't help but have a love for the human race here on Earth, to some degree. You know, even if some beings have such a disgusting disdain for the human race, there's still an element of love there, because that disdain comes from jealousy, envy. And so there is, funny enough, hidden in amongst all of that hatred and disdain and all these really heavy words, despise, in amongst all of that, there is a respect and a love, which they, of course, will never openly admit. But it's there. I know it's there. It's in every single being. And because what they see in us, they will, what they're looking at is their future at some stage in the universal journey, because everybody will go through this process that we're going through, because we're the way show is forging. So getting back to that, is there a love? It is. It's like a controlling, domineering, fatherly type of love. So the protection will be there. That's why it seeks custodianship. And people seek custodianship, believe it or not, because they feel safer in that environment. And it feeds.
Oh, I did. Yes, absolutely.
It feeds on that. Yeah. It feeds on the insecurities. So is there a kind and gentle side to it? There is. I'll have to say, yes, there is. Though it's not there with the truest and honest of intentions. Because if it was, it would realize the wrongs of its ways, and it can't. So a lot of the unfortunate side to the level of its sincerity towards the human race is unfortunately a manufactured and fake sincerity. And the love has fallen into the parameters of being a disciplined act of code of conduct, because it needs to portray an image. And this is really sad what I'm saying. It is a very sad side to its nature. But if anybody has from outside, like you live in the US, so you're used to it. And I'm going to call this as an example because for me, from someone who lives outside the US, and we don't live in a tipping culture. Okay. So what I found was when I came to the US and you have people that are in the service industry and there's that tipping nature, that tipping culture in the service industry. I couldn't believe the level of fake sincerity that was taking place because of that. So the greater the fake sincerity, the greater the tip, the greater the financial reward. And that was really, and in other countries that have that same system, but I'm just using the US as an example because that's where I experienced it in all the countries that I've been to in the world. And so I found that really sad, and that gave me a wonderful experience also and an insight, because it was an energetic match with the fake sincerity that I've experienced from that entity in my life and in other lives and on universally speaking. When I was traveling, and those aspects of me that are still within its domains. So people, when they don't have that point of reference of true sincerity from the heart, it's the fake, it's that false sincerity. Politicians are great at it in this world. And I would say, this is going to be really harsh, but religious representatives are really good at it.
Oh, yeah.
They're really good at it. And there's, just look at movies, for example. How good are some of the actors in our world? That they have to convince you while you're watching that movie that they're in love with that person in the movie. And how good are some of those actors?
Right.
Yeah? And some of them are really convincing. And some of them
Yeah.
you can actually see that they do have the hots for that person, that they're acting with. And then some of them you could see that they really don't like having to pretend to be, in love with that person, but they're doing it because they're getting paid for it. But there's some of them that are just superb actors.
Well, you're
Really,
probably feeling that on a different level than most people, because most people would fall for it every time.
really good at it. But some
Yeah.
of them are really, Patricia, some of them are really good at it.
I
Really.
know.
Yeah. And I just feel sorry for the people who are in relationships with these people, because it'd be hard for some people to tell, to have these
Right.
people as personal friends and to be in a more intimate relationship with them, whether they're being fake or they're being sincere, or it's the fake
Right.
sincerity. And so that's and that's just, what we see in the movies. So take it on the level of an entity who's been approaching planetary systems and star systems and galactic systems and implementing that fake sincerity for eons of time, how good it's gotten at it. And that is what we're dealing with.
Well, I felt like this was something that was important to cover, because so many people are affected by this being. So many people have been, especially for those that come out of, and I can speak for myself, and I can speak for uh, others just by observing their pain after parting ways, or believing that they've parted ways with this being, that knowing that, or just having some kind of uh, awareness that, yeah, I've got a really dark side to me, uh, and I'm very aware of that dark side. I also have this very kind, loving, gentle, light side of myself. I can't really deny either part of me, but see, there's this part of me that has some compassion for this being, because I do realize that as we all come, and this is, and maybe I'm wrong, we'll communicate on this together, but I feel as we are coming out of this trance, that this being is now going to be subject to the very same things that he has exposed us to. And then, of course, we agreed to go into this relationship with him, but he's going to at some point have to feel the rejection and the anger and the outrage and everything that he's created. So I kind of want to have a compassion and understanding, an empathy for him, because I can see myself as the character in the role of being the religious fanatic, and what I did to other people, because I accepted that role, and I accepted um, the programming that he implemented, and how I projected that onto other people, and how I would like to have some sort of compassion and empathy and understanding. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You were recruited and
Yes.
you became a fantastic salesperson.
I was going to say, and I became a recruiter.
Yeah, and you became a recruiter as well. Yeah. And you were doing the best you could with what you knew at the time. So there's no judgment on what you did, and that anguish and I suppose a small level of resentment. Maybe it's a great level of resentment. I don't know. But whatever it is you're feeling is giving you a wonderful insight, because that brings about hope, doesn't it? Brings the word
Yeah.
hope into the equation, that being will one day see its ways. Because I'm going to share something with you really quite amazing now.
Okay.
A question to ask yourself: if we have seen, done, and been everything in this universe there is to see, do, and be, and we're at the end of the journey, and this will be the big bombshell too, another big bombshell coming up now. All right, so
Okay.
brace yourselves.
Okay.
How many of the people who are winding up their journey can really come to the terms with the fact that we have all played that role in this universe at some stage or another?
Well, that's you see, this is why this is so huge to me, because I'm saying to you, when it comes to this being, I have this huge, tremendous, I'm not under his spell. I'm not feeling his authority over me at this point. I'm having this huge sense of compassion because in experiencing his programs, I experienced what it's like to be him. I experienced and when you're saying, well, at one point in time you were this being, I can sense what this being is today through the way that I played my part in my relationship with him, with spouses, children, friends, siblings, co-workers, strangers on the streets, because I played that role
Yeah,
too.
we've had fake sincerity in our lives. Everybody listening to this
Yes,
and we're still
yes.
doing it to a certain degree. And some
Well,
of us are
yes.
more aware of it. We do it less often today than we ever have in our lives, and we're really going through the process of weeding that out of our emanation and expression. But everybody's engaged in it, and we all carry those characteristics. And the reason why we're really good at it is because we've all done it. We've all
Right.
played that role on that level. And of course, this being is further down the track with it than we are. And we were really good at it. The way the universe was structured at the time when we played that role, we were the best the universe had to offer in that position. And now, if you take evolution into the equation, that the way the universe is structured now, further down its development, then the being who's playing that role now is even better at it than what we were.
Right. But now let me ask you this, because this is the way that I have always viewed, I won't say always, but this is the way for a very long time that I have viewed. One would look at this being as an abuser of authority, an abuser of power.
Absolutely.
Okay, the way that I see abusers, and see, this is again, and I could actually, if I just stopped for a minute and I quit talking, I started feeling it completely within, then I would feel a great sadness and loneliness and fear and insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
Because when someone has to proclaim on such a high level this authoritarian, powerful, abusive position, then I say that person is so scared, so
Exactly.
lonely,
Exactly.
so in need of someone to stop and say, I love you. I love you.
Yeah.
And
how insidious is it that you've got billions of people saying all around the world that they love that entity, and it's not listening at this point in time. All it's doing is it's feeding off it.
but they don't really love him
nourishing. It's nourishing, and it's not true love. They don't truly love it. Yeah, that's devotion.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, it's that is the program. So then, see, that's the difference. Like now, for me, it's like, and I really want to be humble and honest and full of integrity when I express this, because this is coming from a true place of authenticity for me. It's not this love that I thought that I had for this being, because I was in submission and subjection. I was in the trance. I was in the, you're my daddy, you're my creator, you're my whatever. It was a relationship where I was weak, and I was also in fear, and I was also, see, those emotions that he's feeling are the same ones that the people that are worshiping and following him are feeling it as well, because that's what the connection is, really. If you really explore it, that's what it is. So when you step outside of that now and you see it, at least I when I step outside of it and I see it and I feel him for who he is, for what he's actually going through, then the love is completely different. The relationship is completely different. And so I'm like, golly, yes, you're crazy. I mean, look at all this power you need. And then I see, oh, but you know what? I can relate the same thing that I would have experienced with my mother and go, wow, she was a woman in pain. She was a woman that suffered. She was very abusive, very dominated. And it wouldn't just be her, be other people in my life, and even myself in experiences and relationships that I've had where I've projected the same thing. We do this in our greatest moments of fear and weakness and longing for that whole feeling of pure unconditional love. I mean, I know even if he's not aware of who he is, because I don't really know, like you were saying, we're all affected by the matrix. So it's kind of, when we say that, when we feel like that Mother Earth or in this being or any of us have a full understanding, we're all impacted because we're all still here participating. I just have this different perception and feeling for this being, and I want to be sure that not sure, I just want to express that to other people because I'm seeing it from a different point of being under his control, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is. It makes perfect sense.
Okay. All right. Well,
because it is control.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can look at it from the point of view, I had a most wonderful private session with a lady of great wisdom, and her name is Pu Yi, and she shared with me a wonderful exchange she had with you can pretty much call it a monastic sister, and Pu Yi asked the monastic sister in relation to all the statues, so all the false idols that people were worshipping in the grounds there, and this one sister turned around and said, think of all these statues as the handrails on a set of stairs. For those that haven't the capacity to walk those stairs on their own, in their own accord, in their own power, they need to lean on the handrail until they get to the point where they can actually walk those stairs on their own. And so it's like a crutch. If you could look at these characters in the arena, all these false deities, they're really there for the people who are still riding their little push bikes with the training wheels on. This is another way of looking at it, okay?
Sure.
And until we get to the point where we can actually ride that bike on our own, in other words, take control of our lives and really be able to stand on our own without having Daddy running behind holding the seat up for us to make sure we don't fall over. These characters are playing those sorts of roles. Yeah, that's putting a nice spin on it now, okay?
Yeah, no, I get it though.
And I thought that was such a wonderful explanation that until you no longer need that handrail, until we no longer need the training wheels, that's what people, if you see the path that you've gone through in this life, that is the path you've gone through in this life, isn't it? That you
definitely,
that being played the role of the handrail for you because you weren't able to stand on your own.
Absolutely. And it when you were just sharing that, it reminded me, and I really can't quote the scripture because it's been so long since I've looked at it, but it's another way of expressing something you're probably familiar with too, because you had you have an experience with religion. There's scriptures that talk about when you're not really able to eat solid food because you still require, basically like liquid food. You're not able to take one sustaining yourself. You're relying on someone else to sustain you. It would be kind of the same concept. There was a time where I felt like that I wasn't worthy enough, and I did need someone to sustain me. So it would be the exact same thing, that this person, this being was helping me as I was able to go from being an infant to a toddler, to a child, to a teen, to a young adult, to an adult, to all of a sudden now, okay, I'm an independent, free, sovereign being. So I can see that, yes, it was the handrail. It was the milk before I was able to eat the solid food. It was everything that was there for me until I was able to do it on my own and acknowledge that about myself.
Yeah, and,
Yes.
and when I said putting a nice spin on it, it's probably the wrong way to express it. This is looking at the much more greater and majestic perspective to our current situation with these entities.
Yeah. No, I mean, you expressed it fine for me. So, okay, this is my last thing that I want to cover, and I'm not going to draw it out too long, but I'm going to. This gets into, for me, the concept of heaven, of the fifth dimension, Avalon, ascension, and so I just, after reading things that you have written, and my own experiences, and me exploring how I feel about it, I'd like to read some of what you've written, and then I'd like to express how I feel and see it, and then I'd like to discuss it just for a few minutes, if that's okay.
Sure.
And I just want to thank you, so much for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom on sovereignty, because I really appreciated that so much. And I feel like everything's been just kind of tying together tonight in just a phenomenal, perfect way for me. Okay. To me, one of the reasons I wanted this to be the last thing that we discussed tonight, because when we think of like going into the fifth dimension and beyond, the place of Avalon or heaven, we know it's a beautiful place, that whether we can remember it or not, we know we have fond memories, and we're trying to awake to those memories, and we're also trying to really return to that place at our perfect time. And in your book, you wrote, when one is up in the higher dimensions, in the fifth, sixth, and seventh, the realms of the higher self, one is immersed in harmonized light. Looking up to these levels from down here, the fifth is where what one would call heaven begins. The fifth is the lowest vibratory realm of heaven, also called Avalon, Shambhala, Paradise, Tula, Dreamtime, Valhalla, and many other names, as each culture has their own interpretation of this realm. And so here's some. I'm gonna be random probably, and this is where I would say to you, stop me, interject, tell me to slow down, say it again, whatever.
I'll interject now before you get going, if that's okay.
Okay. Sure.
Is that I will say that is the original interpretations of those realms, but
Okay.
the idea of heaven has been distorted in recent millennia and recent eras on this planet. So the understanding of those realms has been distorted in recent times on this planet, so that they don't actually mean today what they used to mean.
Okay.
Very important point they needed to make.
Or do you want to say anything about that before? I mean, more. Do you want to elaborate more on that, or do you want me to go on?
I'll wait till you go on, because there might be more I need to add as well.
Okay. Okay. And like I said, just say time out, pause, let me step in, because this is totally me, okay?
Go for it, of course.
All right, okay. All right, so we know that we're experiencing right now being on Mother Earth in her expressing herself as Earth. But her being a feminine fractal of the universal creator, she's not just projecting herself as our earthly mother. She's also and I'm gonna pause and let you tell me if I'm expressing this properly. She's also our universal mother, as is the Son our universal Father.
Yes.
Okay. So aren't we really in her womb throughout this entire journey when we agree to participate? So like when we think of ascension and return into the fifth dimension, there's already a fractal of ourselves and our mother that we are reintegrating with. So, and is that, do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So let's say, because I'm going with like people's mind, humanity's perception of those that are paying attention or aware of ascension. I've been thinking this through, and I just wanted to see if this makes sense. So let's say that I know that this is my last lifetime on Mother expressing herself as Earth, and I'm ascending back to, and is this wording correct? I'm ascending back to the fifth dimension.
Okay.
Are you with me so far? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we have all these heavenly realms that we have known of in the past, and people would strive to reach those realms after their life on Earth.
Okay.
Now, there's something different going on this time.
Okay.
Because now we're at the end of the cycle. If people just want to go back to those realms, those specific realms like the fifth dimension, maybe some people are going to go there. That's why there's that dialogue happening in our world
today. I don't. Okay.
Yeah?
I don't. Yeah.
And maybe that's being propagated by those people. That's where they want to go. That's where they see themselves going. Okay? Now, for me, I'm going somewhere different.
Okay.
What I see happening is that all my dimensions of everything that I have seen, done, and been in this universe, my whole universal experience is now imploding into one expression. So, and when I communicate with Mother Earth, she's doing the same thing as a planetary being. She's imploding all of her dimensions because every dimension exists here, every single one of them.
Right.
And so all dimensions here are imploding. They're all integrating. That's why there's more access to all these different realms. You've got, how much access are we getting to all these different realms symbiotically as we are too accessing the universe from within ourselves. But all of a sudden, around us, there's beings coming from as low as the first dimension coming through. The first dimension in my model doesn't, when I say first dimension, I don't mean the mineral kingdom. That's a different model construct of the universe. So I just want to make that point clear. So in my model of the universe, the lower dimensions of the second and the first dimensions, all the entities and all the civilizations and races and systems and planetary systems and star systems and galactic systems that are existing in that vibratory field of expression in the universe, we're getting more access to them. Very, very low vibrational entities and races and life. So we are, and we're getting access to a lot more races from the fourth and now, beings we're communicating to, accessing life from within our own beingness, because that's you only get through the void, the membrane, the universal membrane, which I refer to as the great void, can only be accessed from the eternal inner self. So there's people having wonderful communications with other realms and realities via the inner self at the moment. And so there's more and more going on. So that, there is an implosion happening here. So for me, the concept of ascension means that one must strive to go from this planetary earthly realm and leave it and go towards its destination to a reality which is considered to have a higher vibratory field of expression, so that you are going upwards, so you are ascending. Okay. Now, when you look at the plan from this God entity to get people to want to ascend into its heavenly realms, then we begin to realize, hang on a minute, what is all this talk of ascension being allowed to be propagated in our via the internet and via books and it's just being disseminated, it's being propagated, it's being promoted, it's being encouraged throughout our communities now. Everywhere you look, it's prolific. That concept, that idea.
Yeah, so you're just making me react. I mean, it's just because it's like every time that thought about this, I keep thinking, I don't understand why I would want to just go. If I'm ascending to the fifth dimension, that seems like I'm going. I feel like I'm ascending beyond that. When my ascension takes place, I'm out of here. Like I'm done with this universe. Like everything has reached, all my experiences that I've had within this universe on however many lifetimes that I've had, that they're all really returning to that center point, and everything's being rebalanced. So I'm not going to see, like, I feel like if you were to go to the heavenly realm, it's almost like you're sitting like in the bosom of the woman again, like you're still being cradled. And I'm not saying if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm just saying, like, it feels like I'm still not being sovereign. I'm still being contained within this universe.
Exactly.
And so I wouldn't want to just ascend to the fifth dimension. It's like the fifth dimension is like, I'm gonna lose my ability to express myself here. I know I am. It's like I'm being catapulted. If I get to the fifth dimension, it's like somebody's got
slow down. Just slow down.
It's like the cannon.
Just slow down, Patricia. Just slow down.
Slow down. Okay, yeah, I'm getting excited.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's flowing, and what happens? Your tongue's tripping over your teeth, which happens to me. So you can express it. You can. I know you can, because you're doing so fantastic. So there you go. Okay. Just take a breath and now go for it.
Okay, thank you. It is where when I entered that fifth dimension, it's like it's where I'm gonna I feel like I'm just going to explode out of here from that point. Like I'm not going to sit in the fifth dimension. That's where I will actually become a universal light creator, and I'm out of this universe. I am back in my higher self, inner self, sovereign level of awareness, and then
but see, even on that level, we're still co-creating, and
yes.
We're back to that place of managing more experiences and going in, and we are integrating with that aspect of our being. It's beyond the void. It's the first point of integration from this level of our understanding. Okay, so that's why it's such a big deal. The fifth dimension is a big deal because it's the first stop on the train line, at this first station that you stop at on the way back towards the soul of full integration. So, but what's happening here, on a much greater picture of things is, I'm no longer going through the ascension process. Mm-hmm. I'm not, and people think, well, hang on, surely you are, and I'm using different labeling now, different terminology, because to me, to use the word ascension is too limiting, mm-hmm. and I'm actually going through integration and completion.
Right.
Yeah,
yes.
That's what I'm actually in the process of, is integration and completion. If I'm going to use one word, it's completion over everything else.
Well, see, that you're tying into a point that I wanted to try to express, which is, I feel like that for those of us that have been caught up in the ascension process, that we also related every bit of that to being on the planetary body of the feminine aspect of the universal creator. I feel like we attached it so much to the earth while not realizing that we're not the only beings that are experiencing this universe and all the different dimensions in it. Everyone is going through their experiences as they created them, as in the time frame in which they entered, and so everyone is creating this balance and returning to center point. So all universal beings are experiencing this, because I feel like part of this fear of not ascending has created a lot of goddess worship, and it's also trying to beat down the masculine aspect of the creator.
Exactly. And who do you think's running that side of things?
I guess that's the queen bee.
Queen Bitch is running that side of the program. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you look at how she's infiltrated, the divine feminine, she's hijacked the identity of the divine feminine here in this world, and she's portraying herself in so many guises in this world at the moment. It's insidious. It really is. So I'm focusing on completion, and that word, if you really contemplate completion, people will know. They'll feel that
I
resonance go
do.
through your body.
Yes.
You will,
But
because
yeah,
it's a word that describes where I'm at in this universe better than ascension does.
I completely agree with that. I feel it, and it's what's been, it's been tough for me because I've been trying to not disrespect Mother Earth and come into an awareness that there's so much goddess worship, and I felt torn because I came into the awareness of the patriarch system that exists and what it's done, but I also have to take responsibility as a feminine in the infighting that goes on amongst the feminine energies has a lot to do with us. It's not just the masculine. But it was just like I'm starting to feel this pull that's where I feel like people are going so much into like this goddess worship now. So it's all Mother Earth, Mother Earth, Mother Earth. But that again, that's like a distorted concept, because she's not trying to be your God. She is playing the role of a mother. Well, when we have a healthy relationship with our children, we're not trying to control, dominate, or conform them. We're just being the life giver. We're facilitating their life, their experiences through the birthing process. And so we're always connected to the masculine and the feminine, even if it may be distorted, and we may not know and feel that connection, but you can never truly be severed from that. You can just feel the separation.
Yeah.
So that was something that
Brilliant.
oh, thank you. I wanted to bring this into the awareness of everyone that if we're not, trust me, I love earthing, I love grounding, I love sun
Well,
gazing.
Mother Earth doesn't want to be worshipped. Again, it's
Well,
her identity has been hijacked. Just like there's sun cults out there. It doesn't mean it's the sun that wants the worship. It's other entities posing as the sun. And they're duping people. The people are being
right.
deceived out there. And just like there's all these feminine entities, and especially Queen Bitch expressing herself in many guises, that she's just, it's a different point of feeding. Oh, she's feeding off there and feeding from that group there and feeding from this group here and that one over there. And, she presents herself as, Gaia Sophia there. And it's just words, it's labels. But Gaia Sophia to me is a word that really, really is a beautiful resonance in those words that describe the personality, character, and consciousness of Mother Earth. So, those words mean a lot to me, but I don't worship her. I'm not into worship.
Right.
And worship actually meant something quite different to the way we understand that word now in ancient times. And I know I'm in a very deep and intimate relationship with her, and she's and she is behaving, playing the role as my universal mother.
Yes.
As I birth in her planetary womb.
Yes.
And it is a very deep and special and sacred relationship. So it's not about worship whatsoever. And you're right, there is a problem with goddess worship in our world because it's making a comeback. Because the plan was to make that a bit of a comeback. The feminine energy needs to make a comeback now because it's everybody's going back home. And where's home? Home is where Mother is. Home is where the feminine is. So it's this beautiful dance going on between the deceptive programs and the organic path. They're blurring the lines. You see, the deceptive side of life is aligning itself so closely with the natural path that it blurs the lines so beautifully that people have a really difficult time of discerning between who's who and what's what. And it's doing a fantastic job. And so there's a lot of divine feminine presence coming forward now which is total deception. And so many people are falling for it because they got tired of the patriarchy. So look at it as the patriarchy is the problem. You know, people have got a reaction, and then the solution to going home is going back home where mum is. And so in a sense, we have got that going on in realistic terms and on a much bigger perspective, universally speaking. That's why we needed to come to this planet, and the divine feminine is providing the place of integration, the planetary womb of integration, so we can go back home, truly go home to our beautiful soul essence, our inner selves and our inner nature. So and birth this beautiful new expression of life in this universe, to have this unified expression of all that we are in this universe. So there's that process going on, but you've also got the one that, the deceptive programs that are going to align themselves as closely to that as possible, and they want to replicate that as best they can and lure people that way through their programs. And that's what's going on. And when we can understand that that is the process at hand, and the beauty of it is, because people say to me, George, it is so frustrating at the moment because you don't know who is saying what, who's saying the truth, who's lying, who's a disinformation agent. And I've got to tell you, I've been invited in, by a certain somebody into the inner circle of speakers out there. And I said no. I didn't want a part of that group. And I can tell you that the speaker circuit out there is totally infiltrated, and the overwhelming majority of the whole thing is under control. It's all controlled opposition, right? And because I won't play ball, I get singled out. I get a really hard time, to the point where you got somebody that took that pixelated video that I did with Dina so many years ago, and they inserted graphics, pixel graphics of a reptilian claw and things.
I saw
like
that.
And if they've gone to that length, I mean, my goodness, what a compliment. They have paid me the biggest compliment, because they really see me as a serious threat for them to go to that degree and that length. And people are falling for it. People are falling for it, Patricia. Yeah. They think it's real. And anyway, so you've got to realize that there's a very real, majestic process at hand, and then there is the deceptive side of it. And we need to understand that the programs that are being presented to us, and all this confusion out there, I'll go back to that statement of confusion.
Okay.
Is there's a real majesty to it. There's a majestic side to it. And I know you're frustrated, and I know it's really causing a lot of angst in people at the moment, but it is serving a wonderful purpose, because it's actually forcing you to go within yourself and only trust what you have that resides within your own inner self and your own inner sanctum. That place that, there's a part of you, everyone who's listening now, there is a part of you that throughout your life you have been hurt, you have been beaten, you've been diminished by so many people and hurt by so many people in so many different ways. But there's that it's not little, but there's that part of you that no one has ever touched. And that is the part of you that I'm talking about. Because that part that seems so small, that little part that no one's ever touched, is actually a door to something massive, to something that is so magnificent, so great, that resides within you. And that is what we're talking about. It's forcing you to go there and walk through that door. That is the doorways that I've been talking about for so long. Enter through that doorway that is in your inner self, into your inner sanctum, and you will not be sorry. It will be the most wonderful thing you will ever do.
That was beautiful. Thank you. That was very well expressed.
It's something that I just wanted to share.
And I don't even want to say anything else beyond that, because I feel like that you expressed that so well. I don't think that there's anything left that I should input. Is there anything left that you want to say?
I feel that that was pretty much a wind up there.
Yeah,
not
I feel
intentfully. Just all of a
Yeah.
sudden now I'm looking back.
Yeah,
I'm thinking I feel we've reached completion for today,
I think so too.
and I was unaware that I was doing that, but now I'm aware that I did that,
Yeah.
and I feel that we can do this again sometime, Patricia, in the future. It's been an absolute joy, and I will say eventful and extremely fruitful.
Yes.
And I want
Yes.
to thank you, old friend, for allowing, for helping me reach deeper into me. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you so much for saying that, because I feel the same, and I want to thank you once again, just for sharing your time and with me, and allowing me to explore your very, very personal experiences, your journey, and everything that you've shared tonight has been for me so enlightening and so generous, and I've had so many minutes of or moments of confirmation of where I feel into what my experiences are telling me, and when I get that confirmation, it's rewarding. It's peaceful. It's awesome. It's fantastic. I mean, I don't know how to express it, and I'm just so truly, grateful and full of gratitude on every level for just being able to share this with you, and see that, I see my journey here coming to completion, and I love that so much better than the word ascension. To completion, and I always say, like, this is like my grand finale, because I definitely created a lifetime of wild and crazy adventures.
Yeah.
in this last lifetime, and it's been so many. It's been beautiful, painful, loving, fear, joy, sadness, happiness, anything you could put in words. And yeah, I'm so grateful for it. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for everyone that's played a role in it. And just to sum it up, thank you for being you.
Thank you, Patricia. Yeah, right back at you, sister.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate that.